Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. The world's richest man and owner of the X social media platform has faced criticism across Europe amid accusations that he is interfering with domestic democratic processes. Last week, the German government accused Musk of trying to interfere in its February snap election by endorsing the far-right Alternative for Germany party and attacking the Chancellor Olaf Scholz. On Thursday, Musk plans a controversial live online talk with AfD co-leader Alice Weidel. An EU digital spokesperson said on Monday the broadcast was not against any EU rules, as Musk and his interlocutors are free to express their personal views. Well, what is defined as election interference, and should Musk be restricted from expressing an opinion? To discuss this, we're joined by Bartłomiej Kot, Programme Director, Warsaw Security Forum, and a regular contributor. Welcome, Bartłomiej.
Good morning. Lovely to be here.
Good to have you. So, election interference, is that what it is? I mean, what is election interference? How would you define it?
A wonderful question, actually, to a lot of legal scholars, I must say. While commenting on what is Musk actually doing, a lot of people are raising the issue that this is actually freedom of speech. He can, of course, speak whatever he wants to right now when it comes to the political aspects of this speech. The issue on the European side, because there was a lot of people from the EU Commission who were monitoring this call yesterday, as it was also reported that the officials from the EU side will be actually watching that very, very closely, to what extent Musk is within the freedom of speech, and to what extent he is actually trying to use his influence over social media and try to interfere into the democratic processes.
In what way?
What we know right now is if he tries to meddle with the algorithm, for example, to support AfD's tweets or whatever there is posted about AfD on social media, especially, of course, on X, then it could be regarded as the infringement of the regulations on the EU side that are connected to the Digital Services Act. This is at least the argument that is very commonly raised by the commentators. If he talks about politics with Weidel, this is rather actually considered to be protected by the freedom of speech.
Because he's just a citizen, right? He isn't a politician. He doesn't have any other.
Well, he is a citizen. Of course, there is a discussion whether he will join the department that will be working on government expenditures in the US. What will be his role once Trump administration starts? But the issue here is he's not a European citizen. Let's be honest about that. Of course, we are very much used to actually commenting also on the US politics. We do it very often, also here in this TV channel.
Sure.
The question is, however, that the Republicans during the presidential campaign in the US very often they actually they regarded the comments coming from the European side as interference into the US presidential elections. And a good example for that is actually the arguments that were raised by both Musk and Trump, with the staffers coming also from the Labour Party from the UK, and conducting also door-to-door campaign on behalf of Kamala Harris.
Right.
To some degree, I can see that also as an argument why Musk is doing what he's doing right now. There is a lot of egoism there.
You think it's a tit for tat?
To some degree it is, in my opinion. He has a very narcissistic approach towards these things, and I think that especially when it comes to Keir Starmer and what he's doing actually in the UK, it is also very much connected to how he was treated during the previous series of riots that happened in the UK, and his activity back then, and also, as I said, Labour suffers engaging in the US presidential elections. However, I can also see the political reasoning behind that, which is if Europe stays in a mood of solidarity versus the activities of Trump administration, especially the ones that are connected to trade issues, then of course it will be harder for Trump to impact the policies of the European Union, to impact the policies of the European states. He can only count on actually the European states being not acting in solidarity, trying to actually negotiate the deals on the bilateral in a bilateral manner. So impacting the democratic processes right now by adding more populists into the governments or into the parliaments of these countries may in the end actually be considered to be a positive outcome for the future negotiations between the US and EU if they ever happen.
Okay, can I pause you there for a second? A couple of things you said which were rather interesting I'd like to pick up on. You talked about algorithms. Now, Mark Zuckerberg of Meta, Facebook, has recently fired his fact checkers, yes, and he said that, well, we realized that they were tilting the conversation in a particular direction. And that was true during the 2020 elections, and lots of people had things to say about that. But that was not picked up. All right. I mean, he wasn't being accused, and certainly not on such a broad platform as the world stage, as Musk is. And yes, one could argue that they both have the same, they come from the same kind of positions.
Well, it is more complicated with Zuckerberg because Zuckerberg was, in a way, he was actually in shadow of Musk. If not Musk's activity, then probably a lot of the spotlight will be on Zuckerberg. But he, in my opinion, he sees the trend that is actually happening with Musk, and that Trump allows for that, and that the European regulations that are, let's be honest, a lot of actually the providers of the services, online services, they consider the European regulations as being actually an over-regulation, especially from the American point of view for companies such as Meta, such as X, etc., etc. This is over-regulation. This is considered to be over-regulation. Employing those fact checkers, giving this opportunity for these platforms is very costly. So from the business point of view, it is of course a very profitable way to get rid of this fact-checking activities, also to get rid of your responsibility whether if there is some infringement happening, such as disinformation campaign and stuff like that. So I can see from the very pragmatic point of view why Zuckerberg is doing that, and why also Musk is doing that, trying to, of course, impact the policies of the European Union. The issue is whether we talk about values or whether we talk about a political impact, because when we focus on values, then we have to understand that the freedom of speech is of course rather a transatlantic concept, like a Western civilization concept, but it is differently understood by the legal regulations that are right now in the European Union and the legal regulations that are in the US.
Right.
Whereas, especially on the Republican side, especially in the Trump's MAGA movement, the freedom of speech is somehow, they made an idol out of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a discussion for another time, because where do you draw the framework for freedom of speech? I do want to pick up the other point, which was about the trade deals. Now, as we all know, Trump has been making a lot of noise about imposing tariffs on countries, but he's also been saying that he's looking for a fair deal. And the implication from some commentators is that what he means is, you give us a fair deal on our prices and imports and exports, and we'll forget about the tariffs. So is he using tariffs as a potential leveraging tool to get a fair deal, or is he planning, in your opinion, just a blanket tariff?
No. I mean, of course, he's using that as a tool in his negotiation tactics against, if I may say so, against the European Union. From his point of view, from business point of view, of course, in the trade that is happening right now between the US and the European Union, US is regarded as the party that is rather heavily impacted by the EU export capabilities, especially when you look at the automotive industry. So things that are very dear to the hearts of a person who got a lot of support in the states that are basically speaking living out of the automotive industry. And also, if I may say so, in the way of thinking that the US, especially the MAGA movement, is focusing on right now, this is also a kind of a symbol. The lack of the automotive industry or problems with the automotive industry in the US, how much actually Chinese profited out of the closure of some factories and stuff like that. Whereas on the other hand, you have Germany, which is regarded also as a symbol for MAGA movement, and you can point out saying like, look, they're exporting a lot of cars to our market. They're profiting out of these deals, out of what is the nature of the trade between the US and the EU. And on the other hand, they spend nothing on energy because they were very much dependent on Russia, and they are also dependent on our security.
Right. So there may well be an economic argument to be made there, but unfortunately, we're going to have to end it there. Do come back and see us again. We'll continue as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bartłomiej. And that's all from us in this episode of World Talks. Don't go away. Lots more coming up. Goodbye.